what causes climate change? Well, it's greenhouse gas emissions, to be sure. But this is related to agriculture as well in several ways. Well, we don't know exactly, but I think it's very large. I think it's in the order at least of a third, possibly as much as half or more than half of all greenhouse gases. And here's how it happens. Fossil fuels, of course, are also. This is not to take away from fossil fuels at all. Fossil fuels also, obviously, you're putting carbon dioxide into the air. I mean, that's going to cause a problem right there. But livestock agriculture also influences this. Okay, let's talk about that biodiversity situation. I said earlier that 2/3 of all the megafauna biomass on the planet was livestock, approximately. Approximately 1/3 is humans. 5% maybe is all the true wild animals. That's just of megafauna. Now, then you could say, well, what was it in the past? It says it was less than that in the past, but not only was it less percentage-wise, but it's also less in terms of the absolute quantity. Throughout most of recent history in the last 100,000 years or so, megafauna biomass, according to Anthony Barnosky, and the references are in my book, Embracing Limits. According to Anthony Barnosky, we had about 200 billion kilograms of megafauna biomass on the planet. So that by the 20th century, it goes up to 1,500 billion kilograms from 200. So that's a factor of over a sevenfold increase in megafauna biomass. Well, first of all, this is and that's not coming from wild animals. That's from humans and their livestock. In fact, the wild animals are actually decreasing during this time. So what does this do to our climate situation? What are all these animals breathing out? They're breathing out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And so obviously you're going to increase the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, normally people would say, well, this is part of the carbon cycle because we've got plants. Plants take up carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. Well, that brings us to the next problem, is that humans are also destroying a lot of the plant matter on the planet. The total plant matter on the planet has been cut in half since the beginning of agriculture. It was like 916 gigatons of carbon, and now it's like 450. So it's actually decreased by more than half the total plant matter. So we've decreased the amount of photosynthesis that would take up carbon dioxide. We've increased the number of animals that would breathe out carbon dioxide. This is a problem. This is a problem. And today, many people are looking at growing trees as a solution to climate change. They're on the right track. It is a possible approach to climate change, and we could probably eliminate a hefty percentage of all the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere through simply returning the land all the forests that we've chopped down back to actual wild forests, not just plantation forests. I mean, it doesn't count if you grow a forest and then you immediately chop it down. You have to grow a forest and then leave it there, because this is essentially carbon sequestration. People talk about carbon sequestration in terms of mechanical process, where they somehow extract the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They inject it into rocks, and they bury the rocks underground somewhere, and that's how we're going to sequester all this carbon dioxide, take the carbon dioxide out of the air. Well, what do you think? A tree does the same thing. It's a natural carbon sequestration device, but it's like you have to leave it there. So we have to return it, the land, to wilderness, and leave it as wilderness as well. So that's part of the process of dealing with climate change, is getting rid of livestock agriculture and returning a lot of the land that we've taken over for livestock to natural vegetation, and that will help increase the process of photosynthesis and sequester all this carbon dioxide. Of course, another prominent gas is methane. Livestock is a significant source, possibly the significant source the most significant source of methane on the planet. Because when cows digest food, the natural process of fermentation in their stomachs, this is why they have an ecological niche in nature, is because they're able to digest a lot of grasses that other animals, we, for example, can't just go out and eat grass. We can't digest all of that stuff, but they can. And part of this process is putting out methane. That's if the cow is healthy. Because you've got all these cows all over the planet, that increases the methane as well. So you've got more CO2, you've got more methane, and of course the nitrous oxides, a lot of that comes from livestock fertilizer. So we're contributing all along the line. Now, carbon dioxide from fossil fuels, that's also a serious problem. This doesn't make the amount of damage that's being done by fossil fuels any less. It just means we have another problem on top of fossil fuels. So we do have to reduce fossil fuel use also. We have to somehow either cut back our consumption, get with renewables or something. We have to do something to decrease our consumption. And when you add this up, it means a smaller economy. We have to have a smaller ideally, we could get rid of livestock agriculture and also decrease our consumption. If you look at where the consumption is coming from, all the consumption is coming, who's consuming all this stuff that's creating all these greenhouse gases? It's mostly the elites. It's mostly rich countries and the rich people within each country. So we need social equality as well as more vegetarian, vegan economy as well. Veganism, even worldwide veganism, is not enough. We have to reduce our consumption, and we have to naturally, I think, voluntarily reduce our population as well. In order to do that, there's 8 billion people. Even if they're all vegans, it's not going to work. It's an improvement, but it's not going to work. To really work in the long haul, we've got to naturally reduce our population. We've got to drastically reduce livestock consumption, and we have to reduce livestock agriculture ideally to nothing. Here's the thing, though: if you're talking about solutions to climate change, which one is the most difficult? To me, getting rid of fossil fuels is difficult because, how would I build this house without fossil fuels? You probably could. I mean, they could build houses in the old days. It would be very labor intensive. It would be an exercise to see exactly how it could be done. To build a renewable energy infrastructure would be a huge task. It's gonna hurt the economy, basically the consumer economy at least. It's gonna hurt the economy because we're gonna take resources away from the consumer sector and put it in renewables. People don't understand the massive scale of this task that's involved. It's really difficult. We're talking trillions of dollars. We're talking about mobilizing all of society to do it. Whereas going vegetarian or going vegan is like, it's done. I can do that. Most people can do it. The obstacle to doing it is basically that people don't know how.